Okay, let's be real. The rules around Indian tax residency can feel like a total maze. But figuring out your status, it is one of the most critical financial moves you'll make all year. So, in the next few minutes, we're going to break it all down, step by step, for the assessment year 2025-2026. And why does this matter so much? Well, it all comes down to this one huge question. Does India get to tax just the money you make in India, or can it tax every single rupee you earn anywhere on the planet? The answer to that question changes everything, and it depends completely on your residency status. And just look at this table. The difference is staggering. If you're what's called a resident and ordinarily resident, or ROR, your entire global income is fair game for Indian tax. But if you're a non-resident, or NR, it's just your Indian income. And that one in the middle, RNOR, well, it's a bit of a hybrid. Getting this right is absolutely crucial. So let's get one thing crystal clear right now. This has nothing to do with your citizenship or your passport. You can be an Indian citizen and still be a non-resident for tax purposes. This is purely a legal status that's decided year by year, and it's all about your physical presence.
For our purposes today, the only window of time that matters is the financial year from April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. The tax folks call this the previous year. And every single test we're about to go through is based on where you were during these specific 365 days.
All right, here we go. This is the first major fork in the road. We need to figure out if you're a resident or a non-resident. It all boils down to a simple two-part test. Pass either part, and boom, you're a resident. And the first magic number you need to burn into your brain is this one right here, 182. This is the simplest, most straightforward test of them all. So the question for you is simple. Thinking back to that April 24 to March 25 period, were you physically inside India for 182 days or more? If your answer is yes, fantastic. It's that easy. You are a resident, and we can move on to the next stage. But what if you said no? Well, hold on. Don't jump to any conclusions just yet. There's one more check we have to do before we can say you're a non-resident. Let's see how this second part works. This is the second condition, and it's a two-step combo. First, were you in India for at least 60 days in this past financial year? And second, this is an and, in the 4 years right before that, were you in India for a grand total of 365 days or more? You have to hit both of these targets for this rule to count. Let's make this real with an example. Meet Bhavna. Last year, she was in India for 100 days. That's more than 60, so check. Step 1 is a pass. In the 4 years before that, her total stay was 400 days, which is more than 365. Since she passed both parts, she's also considered a resident. So, let's recap. If you failed that first 18-day test, and you failed the 63-65-day test, only then is it official you are a non-resident. For you, the journey ends here. But for everyone else who qualified as a resident, we have one more layer to peel back. So if you're still with me, you've officially been classified as a resident. But now, the rabbit hole goes a little deeper. We have to figure out if you are ordinarily resident, ROR, or not ordinarily resident, RNOR. And to do that, we have to look even further back in time. To get that ROR status, you have to satisfy both of these historical tests. No exceptions. First, you need to have qualified as a resident in at least 2 out of the last 10 years. And second, your physical stay in India over the last 7 years has to add up to 730 days or more. And there it is, our next key number to lock in, 730. To put that in perspective, that's basically 2 full years spent in India over the last 7. It's a pretty high bar. So what happens if you're a resident, but you miss one, or maybe even both, of those tough ROR conditions? Well, then you land in that special middle category, resident but not ordinarily resident, or RNOR. And this status is great because it gives you some of the tax advantages of being a non-resident, even though you're technically a resident. Now, just when you think you've finally mastered all the day-counting rules, the law throws in a modern plot twist. This is a newer rule, and it can completely change the game, overriding everything we've just talked about. And it all revolves around this number, 15 lakh rupees. That's 1.5 million. It's an income level that can automatically make you a resident no matter what. Here's the kicker. If you're an Indian citizen and your income from Indian sources, we're ignoring foreign income here, is more than 15 lakh rupees, you can be deemed a resident. It doesn't matter if you spend 0 days in the country. This rule is a big deal.
and is designed to make sure high-income individuals can't just stay out of the country to avoid taxes.
Take a look at Chirag. He's an Indian citizen living abroad and was only in India for a couple of weeks, so he fails all the day counting tests. But he earns 16 lakh rupees from his business in India. Because that income is over the limit, the law says, doesn't matter, you are a deemed resident for tax purposes. Okay, deep breath. We've walked through the whole maze, the day tests, the history tests, and that big income plot twist. So what's the bottom line here? Let's circle all the way back to where we started. Remember this slide from the beginning? I bet it makes a whole lot more sense now. You know exactly what tests lead to being an ROR, an NR, or an RNNOR. You now have the tools to figure out exactly which one of these buckets you fall into.
So, with this whole framework in mind, what are the practical things you should be doing right now to get ready?
First, count your days like a hawk. And here's a pro tip. The day you arrive and the day you leave both count as days in India. So save everything, passport stamps, boarding passes, all of it. Also, if you're a resident somewhere else, look up something called the Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement, or DTAA. It could save you from getting taxed twice. And finally, be aware that there are special, sometimes more relaxed rules for persons of Indian origin and for crew on planes and ships.
And there you have it. We have covered the entire roadmap from start to finish. We've untangled the day counts, the history tests, and the new income rules. So the only question left, the one that really matters to you, is this. Now that you know the rules of the game, where do you stand?